So our mission for Solar Cities as a nonprofit is to work on helping people discover what is a relatively forgotten, appropriate technology, which is small-scale biogas. We are all familiar with small-scale biogas on a very personal level, in the sense that each one of us have our own biodigester systems already built in as we digest our food. Every single day we are biodigesting. So what we do is we coordinate with our local partners and around the world to help empower people to build their own biodigester systems using our open source design. The system that we actually built at the University of Notre Dame. If you look on the right, you'll see the biodigester. I teach all of my students how to do the ASL sign for I love you, because then in your hand you actually have the design of a biodigester, which is overflow, feeding, and gas. Those are like the three pipes of the three elements of the biodigester itself. And on the left, you'll see that floating gas system that George shared with you. We really want our design to be a good user experience for the people who are going to be working with these, what we call here in the States, these domestic dragons. And we want it to be proficient. So the first thing I'd like to do with our students is talk about patterns. And what makes our biogas teacher program special is the first thing I do is always remind everybody about some of the forgotten arts, the arts that we take for granted, which is the art of caregiving, the art of farming, the art of medicine, what we need to do to take care of ourselves when we're sick. And all of these things put together, asking appropriate questions, helps people to reconnect not only to themselves, but to the resources in their communities that they need to make biogas and biogas applications, appropriate and accessible. So with our students, we do something what I call a resource tour, and also getting to meet our kitchen staff at the university as our starting point, because these are the women that we are going to be empowering and learning from them, taking the time to listen to their stories and looking at their patterns of use. So we always start in the kitchen whenever we're thinking about installing a biodigester and looking at what they're already doing. They have what I call the ideal situation in which they are already using propane. Propane is very easy to retrofit to biogas just by simply removing the high pressure valve. So that was great. They're already used to using propane. So that is a very simple change, not a drastic change for them. They're already cutting, they're already using a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and so all of those scraps from the peelings, they already have chopped up fine. Wonderful. Something else that we don't need to do a big change with. Next thing I go to look for, oh look, they are washing the dishes right outside where they are chopping the vegetables. That is fantastic, because what can we do? We can take that dirty dishwater and we could put that together with those chopped food scraps, and that can be the food for our biodigester. Not a big change that we're doing here. And last, where is the food, that scraps that they're currently processing going? They're going into a heap behind the kitchen. Now, the chickens were eating those scraps. And at first I was like, oh my goodness, I don't want to starve the chickens. But then somebody reminded me, chickens, they just go wherever they can find the food. And this is a beautiful multi-acre property at the university. So the chickens free-ranged everywhere. So they had plenty of food with fruit trees. So I was not concerned about, depriving the chickens. Because all we have to do for changing this pattern is putting two things together, the food scraps and the dishwater together, and then changing the pattern, and instead of dumping the food scraps in the back of the kitchen, they're then going to go instead into the biodigester. Simple changes, and most effective by putting the people that we are working for in the center. With our students, we do everything with hands-on learning. I am not a biodigester builder, I am a biodigester teacher. So the first thing I always teach our students is basic safety with using power tools, wearing gloves, getting them used to wearing goggles. It was a really special experience working with the women in the program because a lot of them, this was their first time using power tools, and you could kind of see the hands shaking a little bit with the the PVC cutters. And I really felt like it was necessary to create that opportunity and space for them where they could have that chance to use those tools. And one story I like to share is I didn't realize at one point during my class I gave the universal signal for all the women that I am going to a women's only space. If you have a question you want to ask me, I'm going to a women's only space right now. I said, I'm going to the ladies' room. And wouldn't you know, 6 of them followed me into the ladies' room to ask me questions. And I realized we have to be doing a better space for women rather than just having to default to the ladies' room. But it's still a great place to start because you talk about, even our human waste from the toilets being able to go into the biodigesters, and how we as women, we can reclaim our bathrooms and our kitchens for the health of all of us. So looking at our resources that we have, thinking about sustainability of the program, I want my students to absolutely know where their resources are. So right away I teach them about where you're building this biodigester, where you're going to get the water from. And we had a great big cistern next to the kitchen, and just thinking about will we have enough water for the women to cook if we were to use the water from this tank, and then learning that we could pump more up there. And so that was great. Going to the hardware store, looking for the right kind of tools, the right kind of parts, where we get the manure from, and then thinking about what are going to be the new patterns we're going to be using. We could be using the biogas for a generator, which they regularly use. We could be using it for the stove, and all this wonderful liquid gold that we're going to be getting, all this wonderful nutrient-rich fertilizer. Let's think about how we're going to use this on the garden. At the University of Notre Dame, they also want to be adding on an agricultural program for for their current programming. So this program is so special because they're doing this both-and approach for both energy and agriculture at the same time. So when talking about biodigesters, I like to always compare it to a beast of some kind. So here in the United States, it's very appropriate to talk about dragons because dragons breathe fire. But in Haiti, at first Rose and I had this discussion. I was like, well, what about cows? And Rose said, well, the cows, they just free range and eat grass. So that doesn't make sense if you're feeding food waste to a cow. And so that's where we settled on the pig, because a lot of the farm animals in Haiti just basically free range and eat grass, but the pig is the one that you feed. So that's where we went with the bio pig, and going with all that information, that the farmer knows as far as caring for a live animal, giving it just the right kind of food and feeding it just the right amount of food was very important to reconnect everybody to, because it wasn't enough just to build a biodigester, because we found that if our biodigesters out in the field were to get sick and go acid, it was our fault, because we did not impart this basic understanding to people that these biodigesters are living things and they're not a machine that you can just feed a bunch of grass to and expect it to survive. We actually have to be caregivers of these, our charges. So, with that, we also talked a lot about self-discovery questions during the class. So we had this wonderful, liquid fertilizer from the biodigester at Hinche Haiti. I was at Hinche Haiti in 2015 on New Year's Day building a 1 cubic meter system. And it was so special because we took that liquid fertilizer from that system to inoculate the digester at the university. And I remember standing in the class and I asked the question, like, well, what do you do if you feel sick? And I first said, we drink tea. And I held up that container and said, yes, this is tea for your biodigester. And I said, well, what else do you do? Do you keep eating and eating and eating if you're, throwing up? And they go, no. I'm like, what do? You stop. And what else might you do? Oh, I might take a rest. I'm like, yes, you take a rest. And then finally, like, well, once you start feeling better, what do you do then? Do you eat a lot or do you eat a little bit? And all of those answers came very readily. And I said, see, you know how to do this. And that just really made them puff up and feel so confident and competent. So that starting point is just so critical when then going into doing something more technical. So my students now confident, competent, so that when I go to do something technical, such as retrofitting a stove or building a stove out of a coffee can, it is something that they feel like they are capable of doing. So right now they have a Coleman stove that we retrofitted on site for being a biogas stove, because it was a propane Coleman stove. And then we made, on the right, you'll see the coffee can stove. And so we are hoping to convert one of our commercial stoves really soon as they build up enough capacity. Gas storage, there's the floating gas system that you saw, and another one of our students with the biogas bag, and Rose had done a great job at explaining why we need that both-and approach, so we can reserve our biogas for at night when we don't have the sun. And this is something I'd like to talk a little bit about, is really what steps we took to make sure that those understanding goals were met and that those technical skills were in place. So as part of our class, what we did is we had a written test that the students had to answer questions in order to get their certification. And those questions included, like, what were the parts of a biodigester, how do you start a biodigester, how do you care for a biodigester, and we went through more questions with the students as well. And the most critical part, I think, to any program is the feedback that you get from your students. And so the specific questions I asked was what worked, what didn't work, and what would they like to see better. For what worked, they really were completely satisfied with the class. They thought the information was very important. What didn't work is they wanted lunch. And they wanted more time. We were only there for 3 days because I'm a teacher and speech pathologist, and so Rose and I, we both teach, so we only were able to go over Thanksgiving break. So they wanted more time to get this information. There was not enough time because this information was so important. And what could make it better? One of the most touching things that one of our students said, Rose, is that this is an emergency for Haiti.
Yes. Yes.
This needs to happen. Biogas and solar cooking for Haiti needs to happen, and we need to keep working at this until it comes to fruition. And that was sentiment that was shared with many of our students. And they want this.
They can't wait to
They can't wait. And this is our graduating class. We had 69 students get their certificate, and you can see in the middle the biogas stove, and I remember each of those faces. It's Peter. He's the president of the Nuevo Biogas program. He's in the yellow shirt right there, dead center in the middle, like behind the flame. And Johnny is on the right. Is he the Johnny? Everybody calls him boss.
Oh, Johnny, I think he's a plumber.
He's really important because he's boss.
He knows,
Yes. So very, very proud, and you see them all doing their biogas sign because they all know it. They all know the design. So ongoing support, this is what else makes our program really special, and we could not be doing this without support from PPAF, is we're providing like educational videos on how to test for leaks in your biogas storage system. Father Harold and Peter, who are going to be coming to our biogas training site at Rosebud and they're also going to be visiting ECHO and learning about the agricultural program there for future partnerships with the university. And with PPAF, KDCK, and Hinche Haiti, we put together a wonderful YouTube video that is in Haitian Creole that goes step by step on how to build our open source design in Haiti. So, with that, there's just so much potential that I see for University of Notre Dame and for Hinche Haiti as well, doing this both-and approach with solar cookers, and also thinking about agriculture and energy together as one complete unit moving forward. Kathy Puffer of Solar Cities. You can see us on our website as solarcities.solutions. And I do design for our biodigesters, and I also lead the charge right now with our global biogas education curriculum, which we are continuing to develop with every single project that we do. So I always love to hear people's feedback and what other educational resources and curriculum everybody else is using. Thank you.